Hey folks, this is GreenyXI, welcoming you right back to Let's Play Umineko. This is episode 89. In the last episode, we had that huge part where Natsui was being accused by the detectives, saying that it was her who did it. And we shall now see how that progresses, I guess, because they won, the detective and Erica, and you know, the detective from Burn Castle and Lambda Delta. You know, they all won. So let's see how that progresses from you. I'm not sure exactly how the game is going to continue. If we're near the end, I don't know. I just don't know. After being forced into a marriage she hadn't wanted, Natsui developed a grudge against the Ashurmaya family and was filled with a desire for revenge. From the trial synopsis, page 3. Natsui, also hoping to take revenge for the financial submission her parents' family had been forced into by the Ashuramayas, schemed to capture the Ashurmaya family's wealth. From the trial synopsis, page 4. Knowing that the wealth of the Ashurmaya family was, in practical terms, under Kinzo's personal control, she initiated sexual relations to curry favour with him and managed to ensnare him. From trial synopsis, page 7, from Burn Castle Docs, page 682. Of course, this is the truth that the detective and everyone sort of made for Natsui for this fragment. To curry favour with Kinzo, Natsui repeatedly imitated Beatrice, the witch of Kinzo's delusions, and engaged in sexual acts. Kinzo saw his long-lost mistress in Natsui and was easily ensnared. Furthermore, by chance, she was sometimes witnessed in this guise by the servants, and this became part of the foundation for the legend of the witch. From the trial synopsis, page 8, from presented evidence number 17, from the Burn Castle Docs, page 802. However, late at night on October 4th, 1986, a Ashurmaya battler discovered the hidden gold. The relatives were in an uproar and decided the battler should succeed the headship, so Natsui planned the crime. She murdered the children in the so-called cousin room and tried to frame Battler for the crime. Furthermore, Genji was murdered for opposing the scheme. Later on, Hideyoshi was also murdered. From this point on, she displayed the strong intent to indiscriminately murder all those involved. From the trial synopsis, page 27, from supplemental materials B, page 61, from the Burn Castle Docs, page 1103. The following outlines the details of the crime. Midnight, October 4th, 1986, Natsui decided to commit the crime. She asked Genji to assist her, but was refused, so she murdered him. She then murdered her husband, Kraus, in his own room. From the trial synopsis, page 40, supplemental materials S, page 8, Burn Castle Docs, page 1105, from GC Internal Docs, General Affairs A09, number 9974. Afterwards, she went to the so-called cousin room on the second floor of the guest house, waited for Rosa to join the rest, and killed George, Jessica, Maria, and Rosa. She damaged the necks of those corpses. Afterwards, because there were people in the lounge on the first floor, she waited in an empty room on the second floor. She hid in this empty room until the people in the lounge dispersed and went to bed. From trial synopsis, page 41, supplemental materials S, page 10, Burn Castle Docs 1131, Internal Docs, General Affairs 809, 9974. People in the lounge dispersed just after 3 AM. Natsui left the empty room and escaped from the guest house. She returned to her personal room where she met up with Kinzo, who had been hiding there. She stayed there until morning. Kinzo left the room early next morning and concealed himself somewhere near the guest house. Okay, page 41, page 29, okay, plenty of sort of pages they come from. Afterwards, Kinzo saw his chance and carried off the corpses of the 6 victims one by one, hiding them. Unfortunately, these hidden corpses have not been found. Yep, all the evidential sort of documents, but it. Natsui, who had failed in her scheme to cast suspicion on Battler, changed her plan to include the murder of all present. And all the evidence but it to warrant that. Predicting that one of those present would eventually want to take a rest in a private room, Natsui concealed herself inside a closet in one of the guest rooms. At about 1 PM, she murdered Hideyoshi after he entered that room. Evidential pages. From the time the others became aware of the incident to the time that they carried Hideyoshi's corpse out, Natsui once again concealed herself in the closet. Furthermore, as proof of this, a button from Natsui's clothes was found in the closet. Afterwards, she left the closet and tried to return to her room. However, Fudo Erika found and questioned her first, and she confessed to the crime. Pages. Whoa now, Lambda Delta Doc's in there as well now. Wow. More evidence because Erika was actually there herself? Is that why? GC official notice that number. Due to the result of illusion trial, midnight, October 5th, 1986, we announced that the following has been determined. Ashuramae Natsui did admit to her crime. For 13 months following this announcement, related docs may be perused at the Great Court Legal Officers, Document Management Center, first subsection. Great Court Deputy Chief. Head Inquisitor of Heresy, Lana A. Knox. Oh, it was written by her, that makes sense now. Then let's all assume that I did it, okay? That's what you want me to say, right? As though she'd given up and decided that it'd be useless to try and talk her way out of this any longer, Aunt Natsui screamed that out. It was a sad incident. I wanted to believe that, despite the pitiable circumstances that led to her marriage into the Ashuramae family, Natsui just might have been able to grasp a sliver of happiness together with Uncle Kraus and Jessica. However, by Aunt Natsui's own doing, Uncle Kraus, and even her beloved daughter Jessica, had been heartlessly killed. It was even harder to believe that grandfather had been an accomplice and hid the corpses. However, judging by the clear testimony given by several people who knew him, grandfather's mental state for these last few years has been far from what anyone would consider normal. Perhaps possessed by a mad devotion to the mistress he had lost long ago, grandfather might truly have believed that Aunt Natsui was a reincarnation of Beatrice. Where's grandfather now? Like Erika had theorised, did he really believe that he could revive Beatrice by carrying out murders following the epitaph? Succumbing to Natsui's cajolery? Right now, is he holding some kind of disturbing ceremony with the bodies he carried away? Are you satisfied now? This is what you wanted to make me say, right? Aunt Natsui sobbed as she spoke. This is your revenge, isn't it? You, the man from 19 years ago. This man from 19 years ago that Natsui kept mentioning was supposedly someone who had caught her in some sort of trap. However, she had only mentioned that this man from 19 years ago existed, and she most certainly hadn't tried to explain what had happened 19 years ago. I'm sure that man's underling is one among us here. I'm sure that right now, that man is ridiculing me through one of you. Then tell me, are you happy now? Has a bit of that pain and suffering you've endured for 19 years gone away? I finally understand. The reason you've cornered me so far is because you want to make me acknowledge that, right? Natsui-san? Other than us, there's absolutely no one here. Please stop this insanely desperate charade and quit pretending that someone who doesn't exist actually does. Erika laughed mockingly, but as Aunt Natsui looked at us, no, as she looked at some being behind us, she hung her head and shook. Then she confessed to her sin. I committed murder. So you finally acknowledged your crime directly. She's not talking about the murder in the mansion, is she? No, this is not about what's happened today and yesterday, exactly. I will confess to a murder that occurred 19 years ago. The adults all whispered together, wondering what this was about, because they had never heard about a murder case 19 years ago. 19 years ago, I committed a sin. I couldn't forgive it. That baby. Baby? Now what are you talking about? On that day 19 years ago, Father entrusted me with a baby. Since I still couldn't bear a successor on my own, Father told me to adopt a child. And he made me hold a baby that he said had been brought here from an orphanage. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was to me as a woman? With a mix of conflicting emotions of anger, sadness, regret, possibly defiance, Aunt Natsui confessed her humiliation as a woman when she was no longer expected to bear a child, and also the indescribably unpleasant feeling of being made to hold an unfamiliar baby. It caused her great sadness and rage, and before very many nights passed, it ate a hole into her heart. And then I sold my soul to demons. It happened when I went on a walk through the rose garden to the harbour, along with a servant holding the baby. I wanted to be alone, but that female servant holding the baby faithfully followed me everywhere. I was unable even to tell her to stop following me, and therefore unable to escape from the child's crying. That day marked the beginning of 19 long, headache-filled years. Then we faced the cliff from across the fence. If by taking that baby and throwing it down onto the rocky beach far below me, I could undo it all, I really did listen to that demon's temptation. Then, for the smallest of moments, I thought of how wonderful it would be if I could really do that, and lent an ear to that temptation. At that time, the servant holding the baby stepped on a large rock, twisted her ankle and staggered. She leaned against the rough fence, and at that time I thought I heard the fence creak loudly. I told her to look out and tried to grab her shoulder. No, I shouldn't be so vague. I'll repent. I'll confess. At that moment I'm sure that, as I told her to look out, with both hands I reached for that servant's shoulder, and with a thud pushed her away hard. The rough fence snapped from the base, and the servant, along with the baby held in her arms, fell down towards the rocky beach below. Even though I remember that moment vividly, for some reason I recall a vague and very strange feeling. It must have felt as though, instead of falling, the two of them were silently swallowed up into empty space, so I didn't even hear the sound of them crash into the rocky beach. No, I'm sure I heard it, but because I wanted to think that they disappeared, I must have erased that sound from my memory. And then, for an instant, I thought it was a dream. It was high enough that I couldn't see the two of them below me just by leaning over, so I didn't know whether their fall, or the few seconds before that, had actually happened or not. I must have been wishing so strongly that the child would fall, that I just had a daydream. Trying to make myself believe this, I hurried back to the rose garden. Then I decided to let the servant take care of the baby, choosing to take a rest alone in the garden. Then, Father asked what had happened to the baby, and an uproar began over the disappearance of the servant who had been in charge of it. Eventually, the broken fence was discovered, and two corpses were found at the bottom of the cliff. The child had apparently been here for reasons that couldn't become known, so its existence was hushed up, and the official story was that the servant had had an accident on her own and died. That's right, I stole away two innocent lives in one go. As for the poor servant, her family was graciously compensated. Her aged husband, who didn't know the truth, accepted this even though he grieved over the unfortunate accident. Then just after a few years ago, he died of old age, and I confessed the truth over his grave, apologising. But until this day, I have never apologised to that baby. Yes, that's what you're after, isn't it? So right here, right now, I'll confess to my crime. I, Shurumaya Natsui, did 19 years ago push you off a cliff and try to kill you. But you didn't die, did you? You're still alive and you still call me mother. You came to this island and took your revenge on me, didn't you? For these 19 years, you knew that the one you should have called your mother pushed you off a cliff. And you must have lived a very hate-filled life. And now, you've taken everything I've gained since pushing you off that cliff. 18 years of my life and smashed it all to pieces. I no longer have my beloved husband and daughter, and I've lost even my honour, and I'm being called a murderer. No, I really am a murderer, aren't I? Yes, that's right. It all went according to your plans. I'm now regarded as a killer. How's that? Is this enough for your revenge? My husband and daughter have been killed. I've been made to look like a murderer, like an adulteress even. After seeing me living in disgrace like this, are you satisfied? Yes, I'll bet you're quite satisfied, because my family, my honour, everything has been stolen from me. Oh. After all this, do you still claim that you were framed? Seriously, you just don't know when to give up. Can you hear me? You, the cursed child from 19 years ago? You satisfied now? You've stolen everything from me now. What else could you want? Please, just forgive me. It's useless, isn't it? Battler-san, did you say something? It's all useless. But Battler-kun? It's useless, isn't it? It's all useless. Ah. Cast. Ooh! Are we at the end? Don't know yet. Cast was all the witchy people. Died before the game start time. Kinzo, of course. Died on the first Twilight. Kraus. Natsui, alive at the time of the game suspension. Died on the first Twilight. Jessica. Eva, alive at the time of the game suspension. Hideyoshi died on second Twilight. George died on first Twilight. Rudolph, alive at the time of game suspension. Kyrie, alive. Rosa died on first Twilight. Maria died on first Twilight. Nanjo, alive at the time of the game suspension. Genji died on first Twilight. Shannon, alive. Kanon, alive. Goda, alive. Kumasawa, alive. It's not very often she lives, is it? Virgilia. Ronave. Gab. Gertrude. Cornelia. Lucifer. Leviathan. Seven Stakes. Satan. Belphegor. Mammon. Beelzebub. Asmodeus. Chester 00. Chester 410. Chester 45. All of the goats. Okay. They have names, you know. Fifth game, End of the Golden Witch. Wow. That seemed to wrap up really suddenly, and I think it's because that one sort of part, our last episode, was so long. It's probably going to be a bit more after this now, but wow. It's just funny how it didn't do the usual of what the question arcs did and go through all of the Twilights, you know? Oh, here we go. Addition of new features. The Golden Witch has prepared a gift for you in commemoration. Okay. The answer. Achievement unlocked. Right. So that is technically the end, but I do want to go through the tea party. We might as well do it today, right? Episode 5 tea party. Wait there, let's go back one. Okay, yeah. That's all I'll say. Done well to make it this far. If you enjoyed your stay on Rockinjima, the Golden Witch has granted you an invitation to a tea party. Hope you choose to attend. Of course we will. Of course we will. I'm not sure what it's going to be about this time. Is it theorizing? Is it jokiness? Higurashi seemed to do more of the jokiness, didn't it? Erica, Delana. Yes, my master. You called? I want you two to stay in this fragment and explain everything in the remaining 1st through 4th games. That pitiful transient witch who supports the illusion of the witch no longer exists herself. Expose the naked truth thoroughly. Leave it to me, my master. There is no riddle that I, Frood or Erica, cannot solve. Of course, that's why in my piece, my double, Berncastle wore a massive and horrible smile, which Erica shared. Beatrice's illusion of the witch would disappear, and the results in all of the previous games will be painted over. They're getting rid of the truths, I think, and keeping like the truths that they want. It had been crushed in every way possible, and only the naked truth remained. Such a weak truth was no better than fish on the chopping board for Erica. It's possible to explain all of the past 4 games with Natsui as the criminal, or with certain irregularities based off that theme. I won't let anyone say it's the crime of the witch Beatrice again. I'll start compiling it together at once and then present a first-rate tale to you. You mustn't leave even a single fragment of Bito's legend of the witch behind. The rumours among the servants, the way people talked about unexplained events as though that legend was the cause, the illusion of the witch that worked alongside the illusion of Kinzo. Deal with all of them completely. Of course. I'll get to it right away. We now have the furniture in custody. We're hurrying to identify their vessels. The 7 Sisters of Purgatory had already been taken into custody. Those noisy sisters who had served Bito now faced nothing but denial. What sort of illusion were they based upon that allowed them to manifest? Everything would be exposed and denied. Eiserne Jungfrau has already begun its investigation. According to the most recent results, there's a high probability that they were constructed during the 1960s in the vicinity of New York. An aide has already been sent to the location. 1960s? The 7 Sisters of Purgatory are made in USA? Even though they bragged about being furniture connected with King Solomon and serving a 1,000-year-old witch, they're a total sham. Who was it? According to the report, there's this group of big-time swindlers who make money by selling fakes to rich fans of the occult. Because the deceived millionaires try to resell the fakes as though they were real. There's a chance that they've been falsely deified by enthusiasts in the field. We are rushing to find confirmation and further details. Saoirse Kinzo was a sucker who'd pay big bucks for any fake occult object. And that's what the Seven Sisters of Purgatory really are. That's hilarious. A total sham, just like Beto's illusion of the witch. Though they call themselves the Seven Deadly Sins, they're actually cheap fake souvenirs. Well, from the very beginning, I figured they were nothing more than paperweights sold at some shady souvenir shop. Paperweights? Have you confronted the Seven Sisters with that truth yet? Not yet. They still seriously believe they were created by a great sorcerer over 1,000 years ago. I'd like to confront them with perfect evidence and the truth right away. Let them know that they are mere paperweights worth less than $30 US. When you do, I wonder what their faces will look like as they lose all hope. I can't wait. Call for me when that happens. I'll come to watch with some of the best black tea and dried plums. Beto's illusion of the witch had already been penetrated, and it's been proven that everything was simply the result of human delusions. What kind of delusions created them? Or what caused these in the first place? When the answers were proven perfectly and shoved in the faces of those concerned, the illusion would vanish and be completely annihilated. This is what they meant by execution. An execution is not a show. As a general rule, it's not made public. This is an inspection by the great Lady Berncastle, member of the Senate, so she can observe that the great court is performing its duties satisfactorily. Do you, as a mere inquisitor of heresy, wish to deny her this right? Yeah, that's right. I'm just observing as a representative of the Senate to make sure you follow the proper procedures when you carry out your work. We are currently preparing to take Virgilia, Ronave and Gap into custody as well. The Jester Sisters' Imperial Guards are conducting that investigation. Of course, we'll then detain and execute those three connected to Beatrice. Lana, what's the true nature of the Jester Sisters? We believe there's a high likelihood that their vessels or weapons used in the crimes. For this purpose, Senior Aide Gertrude has formed a special team. We are currently investigating all cases. I'm looking forward to the Jester Sisters' execution too. One at a time, or all of them at once. No one's stupid enough to put an entire can of tea leaves in a pot at once. You've got to enjoy it slowly, one spoonful at a time. Exactly. Let's have their executions on consecutive days. For the furniture and the witches, one by one, I'll send you an execution show every day. Wonderful. After all, there really are a lot of them. Looks like we'll be able to enjoy ourselves for a full 2 weeks. Maybe we can let them decide which ones to execute first. Make sure you think up something great for the execution concept. I'd like to enjoy executions both old and new, from east and west every day. The rules state that the method of execution is to follow great court regulations. Leave it to me, my master. I'll most certainly prepare you a fascinating execution show. Oh, and you better quarter at least one of them. Of course. I shall make a list of the best forms of execution from all countries, from Europe to Asia, which were used by kingdoms east and west for crimes no less than treason against the king. I'd like to think up some execution methods myself, pondering that will be the perfect way to relax on those sleepless nights. I'll iron out my ideas and send you a letter soon. Certainly, my master. Then we'll have the Berncastle style one as the grand finale. At the very, very end, when all the illusions are broken and Beto's magical compendium has been completely crushed, I shall present my master with that finest of executions that she desires, the execution of Beatrice. Beatrice! Thank you, Erica. Thanks to you, it seems I'll be able to forget the pain of my illness for a little while. You're just perfect. My piece, my double, and my adorable daughter. Your words are too good for me, my master. Erica, I'll give you honour and a reward. And that reward is the greatest symbol of Beatrice, the portrait from the reception hall. Take that off, smash it to make firewood, bake a cake with that and eat it. Then I'll allow you to put your portrait up in the remaining frame. Oh, it's been taken down. Are we going to get to see the new one? Oh, there it is! Wow! She did such a good job as the detective, she got to be the portrait. Thank you very much. It's a great honour. I really like that portrait, actually. You will eradicate and erase Beatrice's name and all traces of her. Till that's all finished, I will order that you be made the master of this sealed-off Rockinjima. By the name of the Witch of Miracles, Berncastle, I proclaim that you will be given the rank of witch until that day. From now on, you'll call yourself Erica, the Witch of Truth. The Witch of Truth? She don't want to be a witch. What? Thank you very much, my master. I vow to work even harder so that this honour will not be wasted. Even though she was nothing more than a piece, she was being granted the honour of calling herself a witch like her master, if only for a brief stretch of time. Erica was so moved that her actions had been acknowledged in this greatest form that she trembled. Dlana, continue to aid Erica and report on her progress to me. As you wish. By the way, where's Lambda? She's over there. From the guest seating on the second floor, she pointed downwards. Lambda Delta could be seen beneath Battler, who hung there, dead and pierced by the red longsword. Is she going to be taking the piss out of Battler, or out of Battler's corpse? Assure my Battler, you're an interesting guy. And you might have become even more interesting, but too bad. Yeah, in other words. What a wonderful way to die. Erica, you can hang Battler's corpse in the mansion's reception hall. The next time I come to visit this fragment, welcome me in front of it. Certainly, my master. I'll make that foolish man an eternal monument to my master's victory. That sounds wonderful. Really tasteful. Maybe you can coat him with plaster and make a beautiful white statue. And it'd be wonderful if you decorated him all cute. Yes, Lady Lambda Delta. I will strive to answer to your expectations. Congratulations on becoming a witch. Though it'll be just for a while, I'll welcome you as a friend. Erica was so overcome with emotion that tears came to her eyes. Because for a piece, no greater pleasure exists than having your work acknowledged by your master. In the end, I'd like to have Beto stuffed too. Then I'll decorate the reception hall with her. Galaxy Express? The one that isn't night on the... You know, I read that back when I wasn't a witch. I always thought it strange that humans who obtained eternal life would become so cruel. At the time, I honestly couldn't relate. After becoming a witch and living 1,000 years, I fully understand it. That writer could understand our cruelty really well in the truest sense. Will you go next? I'll bet we say farewell with our backs turned, right? That's because I don't want to let you get bored. Thanks, Burn. But you can be sure I'll count to 100 and then start searching for you again. You really don't let a person get bored. That's why I like you, love you. Let's meet again somewhere. However, we may not be reunited for another 100 or 1,000 years, if ever. That's okay. The Sea of Fragments is tiny to a pair who love each other. The third man? No, Children of Paradise, of course. If you could escape the poison of just a single evening's worth of boredom, each time you smashed one of those countless fragments that glitter like a starry night. Even you would want to count the stars in the sky. Not bad. The Voyager witches travel across the countless glittering futures of possibility, and gobble them up, trying to escape their illness called boredom for as long as they can. The tiny fragment created by the human known as Beatrice had now been gobbled up by the two witches, and had lost its glitter. The two, who had earlier called themselves rivals in front of Beto, now stopped that charade and laughed together playfully. Erica, new ruler of this fragment, weave the truth and create the tale that leads up to this world's demise. Next was the 6th game, right? Yes, it's the 6th game. Decide the title for episode 6 yourself. After all, you're already the spinner of this tale, as well as the master. Thank you very much. Actually, I've already decided on one. Oh, already? Then let me hear it. What kind of title is it? Yes, episode 6. I'd really like to leave you hanging for a bit, but I'll tell you. Come on, stop being a smartass and tell us. A newbie witch like you shouldn't be teasing your seniors. Episode 6. Checkmate of the Golden Witch. Ooh. Who knows what that means? Checkmate towards her, checkmate of the Golden Witch. The Golden Witch is still around. Dunno. Checkmate achievement unlocked. And we've unlocked something else as well. Just like in the question arc, so it looks like there's 2 things unlocked every time. Welcome to the tea party of those who are not human. Okay, let's go for it. In a cathedral devoid of people, a figure could be seen, still staring up at the heavens. Its chest pierced with a long red sword that pinned it in place to the ground. That figure was Battler. Ironically, it looked just like what he'd done to Beto with blue wedges in the 4th game. Ah, yeah. Battler died quite some time ago. No, in this place, the concept of death means nothing except that one has stopped thinking. Therefore, in a sense, Battler was not dead. After being defeated in a fight over the truth and surrendering, he no longer had the strength to think of a way to resist. That's what made him dead. Delana's massive longsword, which had been left in place of a tombstone, fastened Battler to the spot even after his death. This was all being lit by a faint light seeping out of an incredibly high skylight. Quiet footsteps rang out across the still cathedral. Oh yeah, that version of Beatrice. She's still around, isn't she? From the darkness behind a pillar, a woman slowly stepped forward. It was Beatrice. Just like they'd been the whole time in the Golden Land, her eyes had no light in them, and were still muddied over with grey. This person was once unable to even drink black tea to her satisfaction by her own will. But though it was slow, and though there was no life in her eyes, she was surprisingly walking. She is a walking doll. Then with slow, deliberate steps, she reached Battler, who was still dead, pierced through. Then she slowly touched Battler. She tugged on his sleeve. However, Battler showed no reaction. When she realised that it wasn't sleep, but death, the witch with a hopeless gaze let her head hang even lower. Then she quietly whispered, "You liar." Beto softly touched Battler. Then she pressed her forehead against Battler's chest. There was no longer any heartbeat. It wasn't just because he had surrendered. It was because the witches had chased him from the game board. So from now on, Battler would never return. So from now on, the Golden Witch Beatrice would have no reason to exist. Thank you. Liar. Goodbye. And sorry. Oh, at least she's talking and thinking and going. Then the Golden Witch completed her task and scattered as a spray of gold. In the Golden Land, the grey rain gently continued to fall. There was a faint aroma of good black tea. Beto stared blankly at its surface. There was Virgilia continuing her knitting, along with me and Lana talking to each other. This is a recollection from Battler's memory, which Delana's sword must have given him as it pierced him. A recollection of that time Delana had come to visit the tea party in the Golden Land. It's the same with me. The next time we cross swords, I won't hold back. Bring it on, I'll be your opponent. Come at me with all you've got. I promise. With everything I've got. Delana, huh? I thought she was an emotionless killer doll without a heart. But maybe she actually is pretty approachable. Though of course neither of us will show any mercy when fighting over the game board. For a while we gazed at the rain-drenched rose garden as we quietly enjoyed our tea. Still, it really is terrifying. The way you fight. Nox's 10 Commandments, or the Decalogue, wasn't it? Those classic rules of the mystery genre, right? Yes. They are commandments conceived by my father. Hidden doors must not exist. That's Nox's 3rd, right? That means there's no need for detectives to even look for hidden doors. Sounds pretty ridiculous. Berncastle said it herself. She said that because they were forbidden by Nox's 3rd, even searching for hidden doors was a waste of time. I'd like to counter that by saying it probably isn't so uncommon for a rich family's mansion to have a hidden door or two built into it. But apparently, that sort of rule works perfectly well in the mystery genre. By the way, there exist many wonderful mysteries in which hidden doors appear, and where hidden doors are the theme. Of course, this is limited to novels which have the premise that hidden doors exist. If that premise doesn't exist, hidden doors must not exist. So because that premise doesn't exist, there is no need to search for hidden doors. I think that's probably the essence of her ridiculous argument. It's like the detective trying to expose the truth, and the illusion trying to confuse it with a mixture of truth and lies, are getting blended together, leading to a bizarre form of argument similar to a devil's proof, making a closed-room murder seem to be accomplished by a witch with magic as fantasy, exposing that it was a human's crime done with tricks as anti-fantasy, examining all possibility to expose the nature of those tricks as mystery. But it's also mystery to claim that possibilities with no hints supporting them are unworthy of investigation. Let's say a hidden door is hidden in a way that there would be no clues. Would claiming that a hidden door therefore exists, even though a detective couldn't find it, be anti-mystery? That's enough for that. This argument is too far of a digression from the riddles I'm actually supposed to be solving. My fight's very simple. I'm only fighting to explain how it was possible for a human to carry out these crimes that were supposedly carried out by a witch. This whole discussion about mystery and anti doesn't serve any purpose. That's why I didn't have any particular interest regarding these rules known as the Nox Decalogue. Do you dislike Nox? It doesn't work for me. There's something strange about making it possible to deny the existence of all hidden doors without investigating. It's about as dubious as a devil's proof. Even though it's supposed to be the exact opposite of fantasy, it somehow feels like it's the same kind of argument. I shouldn't have said that. Your dad was the one who made them after all. Do not worry. After all, there are some who say it is nothing more than a silly game. The Decalogue feels like something very arrogant to you, right, Battlecun? To be honest, yeah. If an actual detective said he didn't need to look for hidden doors because they must not exist, everyone would start looking around on the floor to see if some of his screws had come loose. In that case, Battler, let's say that the third commandment didn't exist. In that case, what would happen to closed-room mysteries? What if Nox's third, hidden doors are forbidden, didn't exist? In other words, hidden doors would always work just fine as the standard trick for closed rooms. This does not refer to hidden doors with hints or foreshadowing. It refers only to doors that even the detective cannot find because, of course, they are hidden. Battlecun, you often fight by using a devil's proof, assuming the existence of an undiscoverable element X. That's what this is about. That'd be horrible. The closed room mystery genre wouldn't be worth reading at all. And if it were no longer worth anyone's time, it would cease to exist. No one would want to try solving the riddle from the beginning, not if they knew the answer might just be an unforeseeable hidden door. Unless you have some guarantee that no hidden doors exist, you don't really feel like trying to reason it out. I see. So Nox's third is necessary. Without that, it wouldn't be worth reading closed room mysteries. And if you didn't feel like trying to reason it out, what would that lead to? Means you wouldn't even want to read it. That's it. Humans are weak creatures who can't even think unless they have proof that reasoning is possible. That reasoning is possible. In other words, they need encouragement to let them know they can solve it if they work hard enough. That might be true. It's the same with exercising. If you're told to run around the campus 10 times, you can tough it out. However, if you don't know how many times you're supposed to run around it, you'd probably get tired out before you made it around 3 times. Same thing goes for thinking and reasoning. Humans view a problem differently depending on whether or not it's guaranteed to be solvable. In detective novels, there's always a scene where the detective announces that he's discovered who the culprit is. That's a sign saying the hints have all been given in the previous parts of the story. So dear readers, please try to reason it out. I always thought it was just a classic line, but I guess it does have that effect. To put it harshly, until the detective says that, readers won't feel like trying to solve it, no matter how much they love solving mysteries. Weren't you like that yourself in the previous games? Now that I hear it, maybe that really was the case. Maybe my fight against Beto really began in the second game. At first I didn't seriously try to tackle the closed room riddles Beto threw at me. After all, I knew nothing except that people had died in a closed room, and the windows and doors were all locked from the inside. I mean seriously, talk about having no hints to go on. So I refused to argue on the grounds that I couldn't fight, because the lack of clues made reasoning impossible. After that, didn't Beto sneer at me? asking whether I'd repeat that over and over, forever, in an endless repetition of moves. At that time, Beto said this. Of course not. I'll give you the thing people like you always demand. The reason you always stop thinking and then moan about it is lack of information. If you are then given information, you start doubting whether the information is true or not by denying the basis. Isn't that convenient? What clever little words to hide your own incompetence. Then she said she'd give me certain information that couldn't be denied, and created the rule called the Red Truth. Once we reached that point, the curtain finally rose on my battle with Beto. So that's when I finally had a guarantee that I could solve this tale if I tried. And I stepped up to the stage with her for the first time. Beatrice. She's a strange person. Though riddles are the only holes witches can live within, she began to give you the Red Truth, a method by which those riddles could be solved. You could say the Red Truth is a hint Beto gives me so that I can compete in this war of reasoning. Like candy. Because I've been given hints, it's like she's saying, try and solve it, for it could be solved. An enigma that's guaranteed to be solvable can't be called a true enigma. Isn't this almost as though Beto herself is admitting that she isn't really a witch? My. That does seem logical. She truly is a strange child. Beto gave no answer. With grey eyes, she did nothing but blankly gaze at the steam rising from her black tea. My father created the Decalogue to act as a crutch for the power of thinking. It most certainly wasn't made as a way to arrogantly decide things. A crutch for the power of thinking. That's right. By Knox's 8th, it's forbidden for the case to be resolved with clues that are not presented. This does not only mean that one is forced to avoid making theories that are not supported by clues. If you turn it around, it means that the one proposing the riddles is forced to display clues that lead to the solution. So in other words, if you follow the Decalogue, all riddles must have hints, and therefore it's guaranteed that finding the solution is possible. I see. So this is what they mean by a crutch for the power of thinking. If you can believe that it's solvable, you start wanting to have a go at those riddles. If you're capable of believing that hints do exist, you get fired up about rereading the story to search for them. I'll admit, they might have the power to give courage to those trying to solve it. You seem to think the Knox Decalogue is a series of restrictions imposed by the one who made the mystery, but it's also vital for the readers. By using the Decalogue as a crutch, we are given the courage needed to use reasoning, as well as the willpower to reread the tale several times in search of the clues we know must be hidden there. Christ, this is tedious, isn't it? This part. It's like the lid of a jar of jam that's too tight and won't open. Like Mom always used to say, if you think you can't open it, then it really won't open no matter how hard you try. The same thing happens in sports. They say whether or not you have a strong image of yourself and believe you can win no matter what has a large impact on the records. In that case, the Knox Decalogue isn't really a set of arrogant and strict restrictions. You can also see it as a way to encourage readers who are trying to solve the mystery, by telling them to give it their all, since it's definitely solvable. That's an interesting way to interpret it. Still, I've heard that not all detective novels around the world follow the Decalogue all the time, right? When you bump into one of those, won't you feel tricked? Even the Decalogue is nothing more than a single interpretation. It cannot be applied to all mystery stories. Though among fundamentalists of my father's work, it seems there are those who harshly criticise works that violate the Decalogue and call them heresy. There's no end of arguments like this in the mystery world. Was this or that famous detective novel really a fair mystery? In other words, one that followed Knox's Decalogue? That sort of argument is already an eternal theme of the mystery world. In fact, in mystery discussions, arguments like these sometimes become even more heated than discussion of the actual tricks. I can understand why they'd want to criticise it. They try to solve it, believe it's solvable, and follow the Decalogue, but it's actually not made to be solvable like that at all. I can understand how that'll get pretty annoying. That's right. When fighting with the Decalogue, there's just one thing you want guaranteed from the beginning. In other words, you want a guarantee that this detective novel will adhere to the Decalogue. If a work labels itself as an orthodox mystery, then you have nothing to worry about. However, the mystery genre contains many unorthodox subgenres within it. Does that mean trying to use reasoning in an unorthodox detective novel is a complete waste of time? Looking at it that way really does feel arrogant. Yes. I also find it extremely sad that my father's Decalogue has been used as such an arrogant weapon. Then again, you just fought against Beto using the Decalogue as a weapon. Can I take that as proof that this game world of Beto's follows the Knox Decalogue? When I asked that, there was a strange silence. Virgilia, Delana, and of course Beto all remained silent for a while, almost as though my question had touched at the core of something. That's something I cannot answer myself. Why? This is a game that this child made. A game to decide which of the two of you will win. This child has called it a confrontation between mystery and fantasy. But unfortunately, she never said it was an orthodox mystery. That means you have no guarantee that it follows the Decalogue. But at the same time, Miss Beatrice has said that this game is a contest between you and her. In other words, there's a chance that you could win. In other words, you're trying to say that reasoning is possible? If you ask this child, she would probably say that reasoning is possible. However, just as she is the challenger and you are the challenged, the two of you are different creatures. Something Beto might have proposed, thinking it's solvable, may or may not be solvable for you as well. For example, let's say we propose a simple riddle that any Japanese person would know. However, if the person we're telling this riddle to is a foreigner with a Japanese-English dictionary in their hand, it might be almost impossible to solve. In other words, it's possible to have a one-sided solvable problem, which might be easy for the questioner, but extremely difficult for the person trying to solve it. By the way, do you know of the foreign riddle? Why do dragons sleep all day? The answer is, to battle the night. It's a riddle from the English realm, so it might be a little tough for a Japanese person. I have never heard that before. For that reason, I cannot say for certain that this tale is something you will be able to solve. However, I can promise you one thing. I'll guarantee it with the red truth. What? Beto wanted you to solve it, so she made this game. The riddles of this tale, solvable. That alone I will guarantee with the red truth. It was the one guarantee that all those who try to use reasoning desire. I don't know if my father's Decalogue will apply to that answer, or lead you to it. However, when you run into a tight spot and want a compass for your reasoning, please try using my Decalogue if you remember. It might give you renewed courage, and might possibly even lead to some new discovery. Thank you. If I'm truly stuck, I'll think about your fighting style. You sure it's okay to help out an enemy like this? Pay that no mind. I came to this tea party without a gift. I hope you enjoy this in place of a snack. And if you come face to face with me again, there probably won't be time to speak of such things so casually. Nox's Decalogue and Virgilia's red truth. Beto wanted me to solve it, so she made the riddles of the game solvable. In other words, Beto wants me to be capable of solving it. Isn't that proof that reasoning is possible? Of course, that's from Beto's point of view. And it doesn't necessarily mean that reasoning is possible for me. Compared to before now, when I didn't even know whether reasoning was possible or not, that one line might give me a great deal of courage. At least it has the power to silence any negative thoughts about this all being useless. Unless the other party assures you that reasoning is possible, you won't do it. It's almost like love between shy young people. Love? Yes. Unless you have proof that the other person loves you first, you don't want to love them back. Right? Both boys and girls want to hear someone else say they love them first. That's their dream. If they're in love, they don't want to love the other person until they're sure this person loves them back. After all, there's nothing as painful as a one-sided love, and the scars of the heart left behind last a long time. Because they're afraid of that pain. They want proof that the other person loves them first more than anything else. I see. That's an interesting way to explain the relationship between writer and reader in a detective novel. Yeah. Maybe you could liken detective novels to that. Both the writer and the reader first want the other party to say they'll solve it, or that it can be solved. Until the writer is assured that the reader will certainly have a go at the riddle if they propose it, they don't want to write their story. The same goes for the readers. Until they are assured that they will certainly be able to solve the riddle if they try, they don't want to read the story. Because they don't want to write what they consider a masterpiece and be hurt when no one reads it. Because they don't want to reason about what they consider a masterpiece and be hurt when they realise it was all useless. By that argument, really isn't a stretch to say it's like love between shy elementary or middle school aged girls. Even though they really do want it, they don't have the courage to reveal their feelings. So they wait uncomfortably for the other person to confess, and by the time summer ends, nothing's happened. More than that, sometimes the girl even ends up going out with an entirely different guy. That's what my first love was like. Along with these one-sided feelings they can't express, they lament the passage of a summer that will never come again, and the days of their youth end. The writer who wouldn't write until he gained the support of readers goes for all eternity without releasing his maiden work. The reader who waited for the writer's rise to fame goes their whole life without knowing the joys of the mystery genre. Battlecoon. When's this, the chicken or the egg type of shy love, reach a level where it can progress into mutual love? Well, that's probably when things start to pile up. It starts as a relationship between friends. They communicate with each other more and more. And when the two both reach a level where they're sure that I like this person and they're sure they like me, well, then they probably just naturally become a pair of lovers. My impression up until now was that relationships starting with a sudden confession of love tend to break up more often, whereas pairs who never actually confess to each other but realise that they've always been together usually stay together for a surprisingly long time. In other words, this happens once the two of them believe in each other and a relationship of trust is born. Is that what you're saying? Maybe. It's a bit odd. I've always thought that the mystery genre was a battle between the writer and the reader, but maybe that's not quite right. Yeah. It's something that cannot go on without a relationship built on mutual trust. A relationship with love. So you're saying our relationship isn't one of killing each other, but one with love? Though it doesn't look like anything more than a pair of elementary schoolers bullying each other to me. Virgilia joked at us in a middle-aged woman sort of way. Still, though I'm not expecting friendship or a trusting relationship, I can accept her as a rival. Beto is fighting at full force, trying to make me acknowledge that she's a witch. So I'll respond to that and go all out, trying to deny that witches exist. How can you be sure that Miss Beto is fighting at full force? Can't you tell that by looking? It isn't as though she has proclaimed in red that she's fighting you at full force. And yet you still have no doubts. You were the one who said you wouldn't believe anything except the red truth. Surely this is that stage Battlecun mentioned earlier, where communication increases and you learn not to doubt your relationship. Virgilia and Lana giggled together. One guy, multiple women, and the topic is love. Wait a sec, isn't this the worst possible formation for getting made fun of? When I tried to bring back a proper mood for a tea party in the rainy golden land by clumsily searching for a more noble subject, Virgilia saw right through me and laughed. Even amidst this, Beto kept looking downwards with those grey eyes. They looked blue, staring into her black tea. Now they're grey. Yeah, that's right. Virgilia and Lana have given me so many hints, that I barely thought about it at all. By now, it's all too late. Let me think. Now that everything is too late already, and I've got an endless amount of time on my hands, let me think. One more time, let me think about the red truth Virgilia gave me, and the crutch of the Decalogue that Lana lent me. With the red truth, Virgilia guaranteed that at the very least, Beto left enough room in this tale for me to achieve victory. That red truth guarantee will once again give me the power to start my heart beating. And there's the crutch of the Decalogue, which Lana lent me. Lana herself warned me in the beginning that the Decalogue isn't so almighty that it can solve all riddles. However, she said something about how it could be used as a method to take on riddles. Let me try it. Though there's no guarantee that this tale is mystery or fantasy, let me believe that I'll definitely be able to solve it. That it's a solvable tale, a mystery, and let me take it on one last time. When I came to, I was suddenly in that strange tea room where I'd often argued furiously with Beto from across the table. Of course, Beto was nowhere to be found. It was just me, isolated and alone. That's okay. Even so, I won't stop thinking. Okay then. What were Nox's commandments again? I'm sure Delana explained most of them when slamming me with them. Of course, even I recall them vaguely. What was the first one again? Allow me to speak. Nox is first. It's forbidden for the culprit to be anyone not mentioned in the early part of the story. When I muttered about what the first one was, as if answering my question, Delana's subordinate appeared. Without bothering with an unnecessary hello, she told me nothing more or less than what I wanted to know. Yeah, that's it. The first. The culprit has to be one of the people mentioned in the early part of the story. In other words, the culprit must have already appeared. As early as the first game? True, that's the most basic of basics in the mystery genre. A classic assumption. A classic assumption? Have I really been keeping to that assumption? With each new game, the number of people in this tale keeps increasing. That violates the closed circle rule. By that point, everything gets screwed up. Did I give up on the inside? Thinking that the true culprit or mastermind must not have shown up yet, and that reasoning was therefore useless? If I read this tale as a fantasy, new characters keep showing up, to the point where even having demon kings or gods or creators appear wouldn't be strange at all. Even if the true mastermind first appears in one of the last episodes, I'd have to accept it. However, if I read it as a mystery and stick with that conviction, then there's no need to worry at all about anyone who shows up later, because Nox's verse clearly states it's impossible for the culprit to be anyone who appears later on in the story. Of course, there's also what both Lana and Virgilia said. There's no guarantee that this tale follows the rules of the Decalogue. So of course, I can't deny the possibility that the culprit first appeared in the second game or later. If there's no guarantee, then what's the point? However, this is one way of thinking. This time, I'll forget about the devil's proof completely and try to borrow the power of the Decalogue in my thinking. After all, I've already said myself that I won't be able to reach the truth without a multi-angled outlook. In that case, that means the culprit in all of these repeating games is 1 in the 18. From the very beginning, there was no need for an illusion of a 19th person. Even the first of Nox's commandments denies the existence of an unknown person known as the Witch from the very start. If I had followed that in the truest sense, I might not have suffered so miserably in the second game. And Nox's second? Is he going to go this slow on every one of them? Allow me to speak. Nox's second. It's forbidden for supernatural agencies to be employed as a detective technique. Lana's other subordinate appeared without a sound, gave me an answer to my question. That's right. A detective can't go around using magic. So, if this is a fair battle, does that mean that, like the detective, the culprit also isn't allowed to use magic? Allow me to speak. Know that you are free to interpret it as you please. Yeah, that's right. Sure. I'll interpret it in my way. If the game's a battle between me and Beto, then because this tale is solvable, no elements will appear that makes it impossible to solve. In other words, things like magic mustn't appear. When they do appear, I shouldn't suspect that the mystery element is breaking down, but I should instead question why it was shown and suspect the witnesses and observers. That's right, that was Beto's greatest weapon in the second game. Depictions of magic, which couldn't exist in a mystery. By showing me that, she forced me to think that this tale wasn't a mystery, and therefore that reasoning was impossible, so I surrendered. However, if I had believed unshakably that it was a mystery, it would have been completely obvious to doubt the witnesses who claimed to have seen magic. Also at the end of the first game, it was revealed that this tale was passed on to people in the future by that message bottle. Someone had written about this crime, this tale. In other words, this entire tale is a world that includes the personal opinions of an observer, namely the person who wrote that message in a bottle. In other words, the observer isn't God, it's a human. Therefore, there's no guarantee that this description is truly impartial. By the end of the first game, it was already clear that we've broken the constant premise of the mystery genre, that the story itself must be seen through the eyes of God. For that reason, it's possible to doubt even the observer as well as the witnesses. If I could have doubted this much, then no matter how many seemingly unsolvable displays of magic appeared, I wouldn't have had to blindly accept them and give up. However, that begs the question, is it even possible to solve a tale written by an observer who isn't impartial? If I get obsessed with this, all my reasoning will end here. However, I had to believe. I had to believe that Beto was trying to fight me through this tale, because it's a fight, that means I've been given a chance of winning. By giving me that, doesn't that mean that reasoning is possible? This part is tough. Unless I believe that the cruel witch took on the risk of losing to try and have a fair fight with me, I can't get past this part. Just like Virgilia said, it's just like love. If I can't believe that Beto is fighting me head on with everything she got, I won't be able to reason any further than this. Sure, I'll acknowledge it. Unless we acknowledge that we love each other, we won't be able to get any further. When Virgilia ran out of patience with the two of us, shy and incapable as we were of acknowledging that out loud, she gave me that red truth instead. That was the red truth saying Beto wanted me to solve it, so she made the riddles of this game solvable. What the hell? It's like Satu-san in Class A says he likes you. Like hearing a love confession via a friend. I really am pitiful. Reasoning is love. If we don't love each other, the reasoning won't love. In that case, how can we say that we love each other? If you think you could solve it, just you try. You're incompetent. Like hell you can solve it. Yeah, according to George Janicki, people like that are called Sundara. That brutal witch is finally starting to look a bit cute. If I meet her again, I want to try saying, is that just Sundra? If I meet her again, somewhere. Tell me the other parts of the decalogue. I don't care about the order. Give me something that seems useful. Nox's 8th. It's forbidden for the case to be resolved with clues that are not presented. And Nox's 6th. It's forbidden for accident or intuition to be employed as a detective technique. It must not be solved with clues that aren't presented. It must not be solved by relying on accident or coincidence. If this tale is made to be solvable, we can read it the opposite way. In other words, clues must be prepared so that the case can be solved. It has to be made in a way that can be solved without relying on coincidence. If I can believe that Beto is challenging me to a fair game where reasoning is possible, then I can be sure of that. In other words, Beto has already left me clues, hints and messages in this tale. It isn't from the decalogue, but Erica or someone said this. There are 3 riddles to be exposed in a mystery. One is who done it, who is the culprit, how done it, how did they commit the crime, why done it, the motive. All this means the clues related to these 3 riddles are already presented inside this tale. No, strictly speaking, it's like this. Because she wanted me to solve these 3 riddles, Beto scattered hints about. Though whether I'm capable of catching those or not is another matter. Even if you think a riddle you propose is easy, it might be difficult for the person trying to solve it. In that case, it's only natural that there'll be a difference in how difficult each person finds it. Therefore, as Beto goes through each successive game, she watches me closely and tweaks the game as needed to get a good arrangement. When Beto realised that I'd completely surrendered in the second game because it was too hard, she secretly worried. If I surrendered and lost the will to fight, the game would no longer remain on an even footing. Therefore, in order to make me regain my will to fight, from the 3rd game onwards she set things up in a way that made it easier for me, giving me tips on how to fight and a few hints. Virgilia and Ronave obviously appeared so that they could help me. Also, though we still had the usual crazy magic shows, she gave me the metaphor of the Brawn Tube trial, as well as tips on how to fight back. I finally understood how to fight, and most likely, at the end of the 4th game, Beto managed to have the all-out showdown with me that she had probably wanted. Then Beto acknowledged that my abilities had become full-fledged and entrusted me with her heart. Entrusted me with explaining this tale, didn't she? In that case, it was really dumb of me to boycott most of the 5th game, just because I was so disgusted with those 2 witches. It doesn't matter who the game master is. All I need is to search for the truth in Beto's game. On the contrary, I should probably thank those 2 witches just a little for continuing the game in Beto's place, now that she's gone and left everything to me. Of course, I doubt those evil witches were trying to do anything of the sort. Culprit. Crime. Motive. The answers to those 3 ultimate riddles, the hints, must be scattered throughout the previously shown tales. It's probably a very faint light, like trying to find beads that have fallen onto a sandy beach. They're definitely there. However, they're so faint that unless I believe strongly, there's no way I'll be able to find them. Please, allow me to speak. What is it? Go back through the tale. Know that you will be given them as long as you don't lose sight of the truth's faint light. Right now, through this tale. Know that for reasoning to be possible, a trusting relationship is required. Yeah, I know. In fact, maybe I finally noticed just now. It's something that's been repeated over and over again throughout the tale. Persistently so. Without love, the truth cannot be seen. Slowly, the tea room dissolved into darkness. Then, as though I was slowly sinking into a pitch-black sea, I passed through the crevice of the long journey I'd taken with Beto, and kept on falling and falling. It was a bizarre experience, like crossing over the boundary of sleep while still conscious. The several tales before became faint bubbles. No, were they small shining fragments? And were scattered like stars amidst a pitch-black sky. I kept sinking on and on into that sea. The tales up until now, one after another, Virgilius guided Dante to Mount Purgatory, and brought him to the feet of the eternal lady who waited at the top, Beatrice. Therefore, the innermost depths lay not at the bottom, but at the peak of Mount Purgatory. The eternal lady had been waiting there for Dante the whole time. And then I knew. Knew what? I finally reached the truth. To the depths. No. To the peak of Mount Purgatory. Idiot. You really are an idiot. Ah. Grr. That hurts. He woke from the sleep of death, and bit by bit his sense of pain came back to him. On Battler's face, which still looked up at the heavens as he hung there pierced by the longsword, a suffering and alive expression gradually returned. You really are an idiot. A huge idiot. Battler noticed. This whole time, Beto had been snuggling up against him, sleeping, and when he held her, he knew that it was not Beto, but her crumbling remains. So when Battler just tried to hold that form as fragile as ash, then just like a sandcastle made on a beach, washed away by a small wave, it fell apart and lost its form. At Battler's feet lay nothing but the ragged remnants of Beto's dress and a pile of ash. No, on top of that pile of ash, he could see something sparkling gold. It was the husk of a single gold butterfly, which had been torn to bits. And so, Battler knew, I've definitely reached the truth. However, I wasn't able to do it, while Beto still remained in this world. Beto, you really are an idiot. I finally reached the truth of this crazy riddle you've created. Just like you wanted. I didn't lose heart, and I finally made it there in the end. So why did you lose heart? Without waiting for me? You believed so strongly, didn't you? That I definitely reached the truth? So why? Why couldn't you believe with me and wait? You aren't the one who's been forcing endless torture on someone else. It's me. I've been the one putting you through such cruel torture. You resisted until the very end and kept on protesting to me. And even though I've now finally reached that truth, to think that you couldn't wait any longer, and that it's all too late. You idiot. Why did you lose heart before me, damn it? It's my fault. I forced her to endure this torture. In fact, she's been doing a wonderful job sticking through it for so long. Over and over and over again, you kept on protesting to me. And because I was so incompetent, it was as though I couldn't understand the truth. Idiot, idiot. Your riddles are too twisted. Why couldn't you say it more simply? Idiot. A scream of pain filled the sad cathedral. The sad witch who wasn't able to communicate the truth to Battler. The sad man who wasn't able to understand the witch's truth. Battler's howl of anger and sadness rang out for that pair. The clock hung in the cathedral showed that it was midnight on October 5th, 1986. Time was up. For everything. You're kidding me? Don't set something like a time limit on this difficult riddle you're so proud of. No, I understand. Even though there was such a faint chance of that miracle happening, you prayed for it to happen. You're just like grandfather. You prayed for and bet on the power of a miracle. One so unlikely that it was totally impossible, less likely than finding a bead you dropped on a sandy beach. And that means I've now truly arrived at that miracle. However, your time didn't last long enough. If I had reached this point even a little sooner, if I could have seen the truth, even if it had been right before time was up, I might have been able to save you. But right now, I've been run through pathetically. I can't even hold what remains of you. As I attempted to pull the longsword out, I tried stretching out my arms and kicking my feet, struggling to at least touch her remains, but nothing worked. Shit. At that time, I noticed a golden glint on the palm of my hand. It was a single wing from a gold butterfly. That small fragment of gold was the only piece of Beto that I permitted to touch. I cried with all my strength, gripped that fragment and pressed it against my head, apologising. Why couldn't I reach the truth earlier? Then I pressed it to my chest, promising that even now I would never again lose the truth. When I pressed my hand against my chest, a sword piercing my chest cut my wrist and blood dribbled out. That blood spread throughout my fist, and it must have soaked that gold fragment with my red blood. It must have been the only way of telling her that I had found the truth she'd wanted me to know about. I clutched the wing of the gold butterfly with my freshly bleeding hand and pressed it against the red sword that pierced me. At this point, I show my Battler knows and he understands. He's found this tale's everything. Oh, with 3 more arcs to go. At that time, it seemed as though a faint golden light leaked out of the gaps in his clenched fist. The 2 witches had their backs turned, and Erica was laughing at Battler's corpse. It really is pathetic, Battler-san. I'll make your foolishness into a statue, and for all eternity. At that time, Battler's chest, no, the red longsword that pierced Battler, began to sparkle gold from deep within his chest. That bright golden light began to change the red sword's colour, turning it gold. What's going on? Battler is... what is this? Grah. Battler coughed up blood and groaned. His consciousness came back. His will to live, his will to fight, came back. The red longsword that pierced Battler could no longer be described as such. By now it had become a golden longsword. Then, slowly, gradually, it pulled itself out of Battler's chest. It finally pulled itself free and started dancing through the air, then stood up in front of Battler's eyes as though it knew who its master was. Battler, crawling on the floor and moaning, grabbed the golden longsword, and though it looked painful, he slowly rose to his feet once again. This sure is an elaborate act. Is this one of your tricks, Lambda? That glow? It couldn't be. Lambda stayed wide-eyed at that bright golden glow in awe. When she noticed that Battler's resurrection wasn't part of a script Lambda had thought up, Byrne also frowned slightly. Sorry, retrials will not be permitted. Chester Sisters, eliminate this resurrection illusion. Understood. 45-410, fire permission granted. It's unable to target. IFF error. Code 999. Eek. 999, you say? Impossible. The Chester Sisters hesitated, unable to carry out Burncastle's orders. Lambda, what kind of farce is this? The illusion of the witch has been completely destroyed, and the trial ended with our victory. Sorry, Byrne. You'll have to stick around a bit longer. Isn't that right, Ashuramaia Battler? Yeah. Sorry to keep you waiting, Erica. Burncastle. Now it's time for my truth. Request for a retrial accepted. The Assembly of Witches retracts the adjournment of the Court of Illusions. Objection. The trial's already been concluded, and the results have even been announced. Objection overruled. All verdicts are overshadowed by new truths. Objection. Not only has Battler been banished as a player, he also doesn't hold the rank of Witch. He isn't qualified to call for an appeal. Objection overruled. He already does have that. By the name of Lambda Delta, Witch of Certainty, I acknowledge it. Ashuramaia Battler. I acknowledge you as the new Golden Witch. No, as the new Endless Sorcerer, Ashuramaia Battler. Oh, what did you say? Battler got the rank of a witch? The rank of a witch, which she had desired for so long, had been granted to Battler so quickly. And on top of that, this wasn't anything temporary. This was an official, proper authorization by Lambda Delta. Erica couldn't accept it, and her face turned bright red. Looks like that kid's game really will keep us entertained until the very end. Sure, I'll play along. Erica, you handle this. The red truth you've created with me is perfect. The construction of truth that makes Natsui the culprit is perfect. Battler certainly won't be able to break it. Of course, my master. There's no need to worry at all. Anyway, Chester Sisters, my master ordered you to fire, right? How long is it going to take you to carry that order out? Error code 999. An access code's required to target the Territory Lord. Yeah. Told you he'd do it, yeah? Territory Lord? Who is? Who controls this fragment? I do. Territory Lord. You don't mean Battler is? Yes. Ashuramaia Battler has been authorized as the official Territory Lord of this fragment. That's right. So you still don't understand? You don't know what the gold sparkle signifies? He's reached it. Battler has. He's made his way to the innermost depths of all truths. That means Battler's understood everything about this world, this tale, this game. In other words, he's reached the position of the game's master. I'll bet you don't want to believe it, right, Burn? Yeah, I don't want to believe it. Okay, I'll test Battler to see whether he really understands everything. Erica. Too bad, Erica. Just when you were finally appointed as the Territory Lord of this fragment, you've been deprived of that title. The new Territory Lord of this fragment is Jeremiah Battler. Is it awful? Hey, don't you feel just awful? How's it feel to be deprived of that title just when you've finally gotten it? How's it feel? Battler, if you think you can disprove my theory, just try it. It's impossible. Impossible. The theory I've created has no holes. It's impossible to deny that Natsui is the culprit. I can construct a theory with someone other than that Natsui as the culprit. It may be that your truth is impossible to disprove. If so, that means your truth won't be able to deny my new truth either. Battler spoke with the red truth allowed him by his status as a sorcerer. A culprit other than Natsui? Ha, how's that? Dlana, let's see where this delusion of Battler Sans takes us. Slowly, Dlana stepped forwards. In her hand was the red longsword of the Decalogue. She also had a blue short sword. In Battler's hand was a golden longsword. The two rivals once again, no, for the first time, they truly confronted each other. Battler, I've been waiting. Sorry to keep you. You did not. Your return was sooner than I anticipated. Kill him. Dlana A. Nox. Dlana's form disappeared in an instant, as though her slow, dignified movements from before her were only a lie. The curve drawn by the longsword of red truth burned itself into the retinas of those who saw it. Before anyone had enough time to follow that curve, it was already approaching Battler's chest. Lady Erica's reasoning has solved the fifth game. No new facts exist that overturn the truth created by this reasoning. It's possible to show a different truth by using a different interpretation. When multiple truths exist in parallel, the authenticity of both is questioned. In this closed-off world, it's possible for differing truths to exist at the same time. Furthermore, as long as multiple truths exist, it's impossible to claim that any of the truths are the single truth. In other words, even if it can't overturn Erica's reasoning by questioning its credibility and conquering it, I can defeat it. Byrne's reasoning is perfect. You won't be able to overturn it easily. But still, if you can present a theory on par with Byrne's, the fight will come down to a verdict. That means either one of the truths might be defeated and denied. I hope the truth comes in the next arc. I want that to be how it goes. What a laughable script. I'd expect nothing less from a demon script. Then let me ask, what's this theory with someone other than Natsui as the culprit? Battler's golden longsword drew both red and blue curves at will. It's possible to construct it using the revenge of the baby from 19 years ago, the one from Natsui's confession. Nox is first. It's forbidden for the culprit to be anyone not mentioned in the early part of the story. A person first introduced in the fifth game cannot be named as the culprit. Or if the baby from 19 years ago was among us since the very beginning. For example, what if it was me? Nox is eighth. It's forbidden for the case to be resolved with clues that are not presented. Was there ever any foreshadowing showing that you might be the baby from 19 years ago? The red truth from the fourth game that I'm not the son of my mother Asumu. The feeling that Dad was hiding something in both the first game and this game. In particular, in this game, it was made clear that there was some special circumstance having to do with my birth. Battler proposed that he might be the baby from 19 years ago, and announced that he'd reconstruct the crime with himself as the culprit. As Dlana cautiously held her sword at the ready, she gauged the distance between them. Now the Battler had inherited the position of this world's territory lord, and attained the rank of Endless Sorcerer. His movements surpassed human understanding. By now, the physical distance between them probably counted for nothing. After all, the extremely agile battle was surpassing the point where the concept of distance made any difference. A good start. Let's hear your theory with Battler as the culprit. Yeah, I'll let you hear it. I'll prove that this explanation also works, and that you can't be certain Aunt Natsui's the culprit. Good. If you're supposed to be the culprit, that creates several contradictions. I'll use those contradictions to reap your feeble truth. I, Frodo, Erica, the detective and the Witch of Truth will. This time, Erica stepped forward. In her hand, there appeared a scythe like one a Grim Reaper might hold. A ruthless scythe for reaping everything that threatened her theory. It's only possible for the crime to have taken place between midnight and 1 AM. During that 1 hour, you were in the dining hall of the mansion. Therefore, it was impossible for you to commit the crime. It has not been specified that the time of death was between midnight and 1 AM. Therefore, it's possible that the crime didn't occur between that time. There's a restriction on any murders in the cousin room. From 1 AM until the discovery of the crime, it was impossible for any criminal action to occur in the cousin room. Lana, now. Nox's 8th. It's forbidden for the case to be resolved with clues that are not presented. If the crime actually was carried out in the cousin room, clues must have been shown. Because clues were not given to the detective, Lady Erica, who was on the watch for any abnormalities inside that room until morning, such a crime is impossible. By the time of the crime's discovery, you mean the point at which I let out a scream and everyone gathered there? Even if it was impossible to kill them before that point, it was possible to kill them afterwards. Batley used a blue flash to deflect both of the red truths that Erica and Lana had flung at him. Erica's eyes went wide. After all, what he had said was completely absurd. At that time, they still hadn't been killed, even though corpses with their necks sliced open were laying right there. The death of the 4 in the cousin room has been proclaimed with the red text. You trying to use the illusion of the witch? You trying to resurrect George and the others using the concept of magic, even though they were dead at the time? I see, since you believe they were dead by that point, it probably looks as though the dead have been brought back to life to you. So this might look like magic in your eyes. In that case, I won't be the one to take the next shot at you. Fool. How often do I have to say it? The deaths of the 4 people in the cousin room have been proclaimed with the red truth. Furthermore, those corpses were witnessed by a large number of people. Furthermore, it's already been proclaimed in red that no examination of any corpses would lead to a mistaken result. Take that, dead people. Hello, Bonavie. When was that red truth made? Have you forgotten, miss? The fierce shower of red was blocked by a magical barrier set up by Ronave, who suddenly appeared right in front of Battler. Now the beater was gone, the demons shouldn't have been able to manifest themselves in the real world. However, he existed there, and calmly dealt with Erica's attack. You, Ronave, how'd you get here? Well, who cares, this all works out nicely. Now there's no need to go looking for you. I'll capture you here and deny your existence too. I'll leave it to you. Teach her that you can't control everything with a single, arrogant truth. Yes, your majesty. Well, allow me to be your opponent for a bit. What do you say, miss? In that case, when do you claim the Red Truth death proclamation happened? You saying you can pinpoint that? You can't pinpoint it, so you can't deny that the death proclamation was made at the time of the crime's discovery. When this court was opened, Lady Lambda Delta made a proclamation. She said this was a midnight answer session. The death proclamation was made at midnight on the second day, in other words, at the end of the game. That does not deny the possibility that the murder occurred after the morning of the second day, after the so-called discovery of the crime. Then you're saying that the victims were alive at the time, even though their necks were sliced open? Did you see that yourself, Miss Detective? True, our current understanding is that no corpse will lead to a mistaken examination, no matter who performs it. But no rule named so far has prevented something other than a corpse from being called a corpse. Erica swung her scythe recklessly, but Ronave blocked everything with elegant gestures made with a shield on one of his hands. So at that point in time, no one was dead. There wasn't even wounds on their necks. In that case, why did Battler scream? Better watch your feet, little girl. Ashuramae Kinzo is already dead at the starting time of all games. Huh? Ah. A pitch black hole opened beneath Erica's feet and swallowed her up. She could probably see through to the other side of the hole. It was the same thing you'd see if you looked down out of the skylight on the ceiling of this cathedral. Leah. Yes. Virgilia could already be seen in mid-air inside the cathedral. As Erica fell from the heavens, Virgilia was right below her and caught her on the end of a divine spear that sparkled blue. Shouldn't you rethink your reasoning? Kinzo doesn't exist. Therefore, the way for the bodies to disappear in your theory is a failure. Correct. Unless someone other than Kinzo makes the corpses disappear, your theory fails. Damn it. Damn it. This is nothing. Virgilia's blue divine spear skewered and pinned Erica in midair. Erica struggled, filled with hatred, but she couldn't get it out easily. Then all around her, several small fast things clanged off the walls and enveloped her. Then 7 people manifested themselves at once. We are the 7 Sisters of Purgatory. Know this, foe of our master. You lowly paperweights. After George's death, his corpse was never moved. After Jessica's death, her corpse was never moved. After Maria's death, her corpse was never moved. After Rosa's death, her corpse was never moved. After Genji's death, his corpse was never moved. After Kraus's death, his corpse was never moved. Therefore, the corpses couldn't have vanished after being discovered. Your theory about Kinzo carrying the corpses away fails. But so what? Even without Kinzo, I can explain how the corpses I, Frudo Erica, have to revise my theory. I do? The detective does? Erica was probably capable of escaping this even with Kinzo's existence denied, by making only a small revision to her theory. However, to her, having to revise a theory she had already created was extremely humiliating. Looks like you toyed around with your plan too much in order to corner Natsui like that. You played around too much with your reasoning. At this point, your master isn't the only one who can speak of Kinzo's death with the red truth. This is what you get for playing around in the witch's darkness. Know that, Frudo, Erica. Of course, even Erica had doubted Kinzo's existence from the beginning. However, it had previously been impossible for anyone to deny his existence in that trial, except for Burncastle and Lambda Delta, who had sided with each other. And because of the willful silence of those two, the truth about Kinzo had truly been unfixed. And yet, to think the battler had become a witch, a sorcerer, and capable of using red without proof. However, she had her own Inquisitor of Heresy, who could also use red without proof to counter. Tlana. Noxus second. It's forbidden for supernatural agencies to be employed as a detective technique. If it would show the Kinzo has died with the red truth, then I demand that you display proof of a human's truth that could be used to make that point. Forgive me, damn geezer. Overcome it, battler. Don't let my corpse stop you. Presentation of evidence. I'll present a corpse that could possibly be identified as Ashuramae Kinzo's. Can you prove this corpse is Ashuramae Kinzo? No matter how much it resembles him, unless you can prove that it's him, it's possible to claim that it was a substitute corpse from someone else. Can you show that it was Kinzo's corpse with the truth of humans? In this case alone, and with the red truth specifically, no counter-argument will be valid. Ooh, any counter with the red truth will be invalid? I guess that works. It may be that the existence of third-party corpses has already been denied with the red. However, if saying that with the red's forbidden, battler has nowhere to run to. That's right. In this closed-off Rokkenjima, there's no objective way to show that this corpse is grandfather's. And that itself suggests the possibility that this corpse is a body double. This unidentifiable corpse cannot serve as proof of Kinzo's death. Checkmate. My theory does not waver. Tlana has sealed off the red truth as a means of proving that Kinzo's corpse has been shown. Even with the power of witches, Battler couldn't argue back. How are you going to prove that the corpse was Kinzo's if the red truth is sealed? It's impossible. It can't be done. With red or blue, right? I guarantee that this corpse is a Shuremaya Kinzo's corpse. We got gold ruling. Then, when Dlana met with Battler's golden flash, she was unable to fully block it with either her red longsword or a blue short sword, and she was blown backwards into empty space. It was a direct hit, without any miscalculation. Though she had always seemed as firm as a small giant before now, she was finally blasted away and slammed against the wall as though she was the slender girl she appeared to be. Dlana, what are you? A splendid gold truth. It's valid. Gold truth? The golden longsword, which had been drawing red and blue trails before now, finally drew a curve that retained its divine golden colour. The truth it showed was neither red nor blue. It was gold truth. What's that? Lambda, does this follow the rules? Yes. Gold truth valid. The gold truth can only be used by the territory lord of this world. No, only by the game master himself. What did you say? Gold truth. A divine truth woven in a different fashion than the red truth. Its strength is on par with the red truth. It may sometimes be inferior, but sometimes superior. That glitter is proof the Battler-kun truly understands Beto. I've shown it. Shown that the corpse is grandfather's. Yes. Gold truth accepted. Unless Lady Erica's theory undergoes some revision, it will be destroyed. What the... Erica cried out in pain. It wasn't the pain of her body being pierced. It was the pain of her own theory being defiled. I see. It's like, and then there were no Ackroyds. Just when did this... What a crazy mashup of great works. Battler, it would be excessively unrefined to say any more. Even without saying another word. You've fully made your truth about the corpse's disappearance understood. I see that thing you're thinking of doesn't conflict with any of the red in this trial so far. Your truth based around the revenge of the man from 19 years ago had been completely understood and processed. I proclaim that your truth has now been established. What the? Why is that, great Lady Lambda Delta? He still hasn't explained everything. I still have many ways to argue back, like Hideyoshi's closed room, the seal on Natsui's personal room, and the button in the closet. Do you really still think you're capable of defeating Battler's argument? Only Erica, the one who was supposedly so intelligent, couldn't understand. She couldn't understand that Battler had already reached the real truth. Because of this, Grandfather's absence has been verified, and the dishonourable relationship between Aunt Natsui and Grandfather has been removed from consideration. Aunt Natsui is pure and faithful. I won't permit this vulgar tale you're all so fond of. Battler-kun. Furthermore, because we've raised doubts about the time of death for all who have died so far, the alibis for everyone besides Aunt Natsui go back to square one. If you try to argue that the crime was impossible for everyone except Aunt Natsui, it won't work. Dlana, who must have risen to her knees at some point, slowly stood up. The flash from the golden longsword was still buried deep in her chest. Though pain didn't show in her expression, her awkward movements clearly showed how serious the damage she had taken was. Even though she herself knew that the match was long over by now, Dlana didn't abandon her duty. However, in the cousin room, you witnessed corpses that were impossible to misidentify. You tried to say that was a lie. Noxus 7th is forbidden for the detective to be the culprit. The detective is obligated to keep to an objective point of view. Your theory would mean you violated the obligation. Frudo Erica is the detective, and the me in this game isn't one. By Noxus 9th, it's permitted for observers to let their own conclusions and explanations be heard. Noxus 8th, it's forbidden for the case to be resolved with clues that are not presented. Until now, you have been the detective. Was it ever shown that you were not the detective this time, and that you were an observer capable of inserting his own personal ideas? Unless it was, you do not have the right to falsify your point of view. In this game, when I figured out the device connected to the epitaph's riddle, I witnessed Grandfather. As has already been shown in red, Grandfather doesn't exist. It was impossible for me to witness him. Therefore, it's already been shown that my viewpoint wasn't objective. It's possible that it was just a sheet or something fluttering in the wind and rain, which you mistook for Kinzo. It can't be used as foreshadowing to form a basis for Nox's ninth. Mistaking one thing for another is a right permitted to all observers. This is the red truth that Beto showed during the fourth game. No person would mistake a Shuremaya Kinzo by sight. It's a red truth Beto used to counter my blue truth claim that someone disguised themselves as Kinzo, to make it seem as though Grandfather had appeared. In other words, on this island, all illusions that might lead someone to mistake something for Grandfather, including someone else pretending to be Grandfather, most certainly cannot work. All of Aunt Natsui's schemes to make it seem Grandfather existed were hidden in the relatives' blind spots. All of them clever tricks like he was here just a second ago, or he's in the study alone now. They never tried to make anyone mistake something they saw for Grandfather himself, so there are no contradictions. If they had tried to dress one of the servants in Grandfather's robe, it probably would have been seen through in an instant. It's been guaranteed that none of the characters in this tale would mistake something for Grandfather by sight. If someone claims to have seen Grandfather despite that, it becomes a lie. Allowing lies to be contained within their observations is a right granted to everyone, except for just one person, and that person is the detective. Because of the right granted by Nox's ninth, anyone's allowed to mistake a sheet in the wind for something else and tell about it. However, mistaking it for Grandfather in particular is not permitted in this game due to the red truth. So once you claim to have seen Kinzo, it was no longer misrecognition, but intentional. In other words, this proves that the observer was not objective, is what you're saying. In this case, unintentional misrecognition is not permitted by the rules of the game. However, it's possible to intentionally lie about seeing something you never saw, and this is an action not permitted to a detective who is obligated to maintain an impartial perspective. Forgive my crazy argument, it's all finished now. No, it's okay. Because men like you exist in this world, you will surely protect the fragile truth from any kind of pride. You will surely protect the real truth from the tyranny of any plausible truth that might claim to exist as the sole truth and try to exterminate all fragile truths. Battler's golden longsword drew a massive blue arc as though split in the heavens. I'm glad I could fight with you. Therefore, my perspective in this game is based upon the 9th, not the 7th. The fact that I claim to have seen Grandfather is proof. The noise that rang out across the cathedral was the sound of Dlana's longsword clattering to the floor. Simply letting go of that was the same as resigning to the proud Dlana. Though the blue trail Battler had drawn was aiming right for the top of Dlana's head, it stopped a hair's breadth away. If it hadn't, Dlana would probably have been annihilated without leaving a single scrap of flesh behind. I resign. I give up on denying your truth. I paid my debt. Let honour be to your father. The decalogue was neither arrogant nor judgmental. Honour to my father. Dlana sat down on the floor and completely abandoned her will to fight. What are you doing, Dlana? Lame, pathetic. You stupid half-wit murder doll. You've tainted the honour of your own father. Shame on you. You still call yourself Mystery's Wedges? Will you surrender yourself to magic? The history of the mystery genre won't allow that. You're the one that doesn't understand what mystery is all about. If you see mystery as nothing more than a weapon with which to sneer at your opponent intellectually, I won't let you ever say so again. Battler. I'll present a truth that conflicts with yours. Aunt Natsui was threatened by a phone call over the internal line sent by the man from 19 years ago, me. His goal was to make Aunt Natsui look like a murderer. From the beginning, this has all been a drama of revenge intent on framing Aunt Natsui. That's wrong. It's a drama of revenge against the Shuremaya family that Natsui thought up. Your theory outright opposes mine. You still can't pull out the blue spear that's sticking through you, right? Yeah, that's right. From America, I haven't heard of a single way for the corpses to disappear that doesn't involve Kinzo. Kinzo, looks like your theory's about to be denied, doesn't it? The spear is just... You paperweights, get out of my way. The deeply piercing blue spear and the 7 red stakes tormented her theory. They won't come out. They won't come out. I acknowledged a mistake in Erica's reasoning and the need for a revision. What the? My master? Watching Erica's face contort with pain as she struggled to escape from the spear. Berncastle spoke this with a disgusted expression. Faced with the facts, Berncastle has acknowledged Erica's loss herself. Erica gazed at her master, who was no longer confident in Erica's own victory, with a mixture of shock and despair. I don't give a damn about your pride. How long do you intend to shame yourself like that? You, my double, who's been granted the same blue hair as me, how long do you intend to hang there, pierced through like that? I guess I'll just have to descend myself. Looks like I didn't need a piece after all. Ah, what a pain. What a pain. What a total pain. I don't need a piece. I'll just throw it away. Yeah. That disappointing, regretful, discouraging, hopeless letdown of a misfire. Do it quickly, filth. Didn't I tell you to revise that pathetic theory of yours? Ooh, yes, my master. I'll revise it. I'll revise my theory. As Erica's face twisted in humiliation and tears streamed from her eyes, she withdrew and revised her own theory in accordance with her master's order. Mumbling quietly, she made various revisions with the blue truth, had them acknowledged by Lambda Delta, and finally had the blue spear smashed and was freed. Though that blue truth did indeed explain how the corpse had disappeared, it couldn't conceal its desperation as a bit truly shabby reasoning. My master, I've taken it out. My theory is perfect. You kidding me? It's horribly pathetic, but I'll forgive you, because your face and your theory are so lame it's funny. Erica was taunted by her master, who wore an ugly expression. She thrashed about on the floor, crying bitter tears. The wounded Zelana stepped out before her, as though shielding her, and she spoke to Berncastle as well as Battler. Regardless of how pathetic it might be, Lady Erica's revised truth is valid. Yeah, that's right. Regardless of my truth, yours can exist at the same time. That's what this world is like. No one can disprove them, so even if there are various truths, and even if they contradict each other wildly, they can exist at the same time. Here, as many truths exist as you can imagine, no one can just deny that on their own. Yes, that's true. I won't let anyone deny Lady Erica's truth. Lana, as long as I'm here, I will protect that truth. No matter how pathetic it is, I'll not laugh at that truth. The words of Lana, whom Erica had previously looked down upon, led Erica to once again thrash about on the floor, sobbing. And because no unique truth exists, everything's covered in darkness. Therefore, while both my theory and Erica's theory are impossible to deny, neither is a unique truth. They are vague, and while neither can be denied, neither is certain. Because there has been no decision, the illusion of the witch still exists. The only one who will be permitted to expose it is neither Erica nor the rest of you. It's me alone. I won't let anyone expose Beatrice's illusion except me. The verdict's revised. Because of the truth presented by Ashurmaya Battler, Erica's truth is no longer unique. However, Erica's truth is impossible to disprove. Therefore, both their truths exist together. The conclusion of the fifth game is rescinded? The game goes back to being even. And I transfer the position of Game Master from myself to the Golden Sorcerer, Ashurmaya Battler. Ashurmaya Battler, step forward. I appoint you as the new Game Master. Will you accept? You will, right? Do it, you new endless witch. Yeah, I'm the new Game Master. I'll weave the sixth game. Erica, let's settle things for good this time. Stand up. Yes, I will stand. I'll make you regret, giving me a chance to clear away the shame. My master, please give me an opportunity to fight with Battler again in the sixth game. Sure. Of course I'll give you a chance. Wow, incredible. She said I'll give you a chance. Isn't this a miracle from the Witch of Miracles, Berncastle? Erica, you've miraculously managed to escape with your life. In the sixth game, Battler's game, expose the truth no matter what, unless you want to be tossed aside into the darkness of oblivion. Yes, my master. Lana? Of course. I'll give it my all in the next game as well. I won't pretend to be a guest any longer. Together with Lana, I'll tear your game to bits. Sure. I'll invite you to my sixth game. Sorry, but that title of yours, Checkmate of the, isn't cutting it. It's your game, you can decide the name yourself. Just bring it on. I, Frodo Erica, I'm a detective before I'm a witch. I acknowledge you as the new master of the game, and I issue a proclamation of war. I'll definitely expose it all. I'll kill you. Golden Sorcerer, a Shurumaya battler. Yeah, come at me with all you got. Through to Erica. Just watch me though. I'll take charge of your game. And in this next game, I'll prove that I completely understand all your riddles. Oh! Oh my god, that went on longer than I thought it would. Shit. Okay, so it looks like that's the end of game number 5. Unless a little bit more comes after this, which it might well do, you never know. So we don't actually know the title of the next chapter quite yet, because Battler didn't want it to be that after all. The checkmate of the Golden Witch. The fact is it really a Golden Witch anymore? Golden Sorcerer? We'll see what they call it. It might still be Golden Witch, just to keep in line with the sort of title pattern kind of thing. So yeah, we'll see how that turns out. What do I think of this arc? What do you guys think of this arc? I think it's it just feels really cut short in the murder sort of department, and they went on for answers, which is the whole point of this sort of 4 arcs. These 4 arcs, they're to get you answers rather than keeping on chucking at questions to do. But it's still chucking questions to do. But anyway, I feel like this was all about Natsui, and I like Natsui as a character, so that's good. We got to know more about her and her excuses and her reasonings and her relationship with Kinzo and things like that. It's funny how Kraus wasn't in it too much, and Jessica, in that sense. Yeah, it was a decent arc. I like Erica a lot, so there is that. A lot of new characters came into it. Is that it? Oop. Oh god, the smash. Addition. Oh. More new features. That can't be right. Jesus Christ, what's... Oh, just tips. Jesus, I thought there was even more coming. Let's have a look at it. Right, it's just all that sort of stuff. Resurrect. Execute. Oh, it's not doing it. I think it got select someone, right? Okay, anyway. But yeah, it unlocked the tips. I thought there was going to be even more of them, which would have been different from the other arcs. I love how the background looks now. It looks like the Golden Land, so that's good. So yeah, that's us done with this, with Umineko for now. We've got 3 more arcs to go, but as we've been doing up until now, and with Higurashi, there's going to be a bit of a break. I don't know how long for. Every time I get to the end of an arc of Umineko or Higurashi, it just feels like things... It feels like a relief to get the game out of the way for a little while. I think I get burnt out because of the amount I have to do for recording and stuff, and you know, it's not something I can take too slowly. So yeah, this has been Greeny XI. I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again in a bit for whatever our next series is, and we'll get back to Umineko over the next few months probably. It won't be quite yet. Thanks again for watching, folks. See you again in a bit.